So I secured $100,000 in business funding from Chase Bank in less than a year's time. And I'm still making this video telling you that I made a significant mistake on my way to accessing that capital. I want to dive into a quick recap of how I accessed those funds in the window of time that I did, a little bit of context on the relationship with Chase Bank that I've had, and ultimately a little bit of details on a mistake that I made that really cost me better access to a better funding product in the same window of time that I missed. So I want to give you this context because as a business owner, entrepreneur, accessing capital is essential for your growth and sustainability in your business. And making sure that you minimize your mistakes can save you a lot of time and a lot of money. So I'm going to give you this quick context on this video around my relationship with Chase Bank. First off, goes back to 2011 on the personal side. I've been banking with them for a very long time. Even when I went through my hardship, they were one of the institutions that I had to rebuild my relationship with. I defaulted on a credit card with them and a deposit account. So I had to actually rebuild with Chase Bank around the 2015, 2016, 2017 window of time. From that point in time, call it 2018 to the early 2020s, reestablished the relationship. And the first business credit card that I got was in 2023, late summer of 2023. It was a sole proprietorship business credit card. So this really kind of doesn't count into the $100,000 that I'm referring to. But I did want to test the waters and seeing my ability to access capital with them at all. So I took a sole proprietorship route. They gave me maybe a $3,000 starting limit on that sole proprietorship. Eventually, it turned into $4,000. I actually shot a video about that, how they kind of nickel and dime me. But it's a sole proprietorship, so I get it. The real funding activity kicked in February of 2024. I got my first Inc. card with them under my actual real active LLC. And that card came in at $45,000 on the first limit, which I was very impressed and grateful for. It was 0% for 12 months. The next card came in around the summertime, call it June. That one was $47,000. That was 0%. And then later on in the year, call it maybe October, they gave me another $4,000 or $5,000 on another Inc. card. So all at 0%. So somewhere a little bit over $100,000 in capital with Chase Bank. For those of you who have been in this space already, you know what time it is when we talk about accessing capital, and usually doing so with little to no documentation through business credit cards at 0%. I know some people are looking at this that may not be in the credit or funding space per se, or an entrepreneur or a business owner accessing capital, and maybe scratching their head trying to figure out how the hell we consider credit cards as a source of funding when it comes to being an entrepreneur accessing capital. And the reality of the situation is the majority of business funding, it is extremely difficult to acquire. Even if you're an established business of 2 or more years with real revenues, there's so many different mechanisms and barriers of entry to get access to that capital in its traditional or conventional form. So over the years, entrepreneurs got creative and started finding other ways to access capital. Business credit cards are it's literally the most accessible business lending product you're going to get your hands on. And through the years of tweaking and, maneuvering around, people have found ways to access that credit card limit via cash, converting it into cash and keeping it 0%, which opened up a whole nother window of funding for entrepreneurs. So for those of you who may not be familiar with this, this is the backdrop to that strategy. Now, that having been said, successfully secured that $100,000+ in funding. Very proud of it. At 0%, it allowed me to dive into my projects, my brand building, my business building, head first, 10 toes deep with the capital that I needed. And I had a reasonable exit strategy at play. I wasn't expecting that money to come back immediately. So the goal was going to be to access other funding tools, other business credit cards, balance transfers, and then, of course, whatever cash that I used to pay down from other areas of revenue. So I had a backup plan in place. Now, the problem comes in during that same window of time. Chase Bank launched what was called, or they dubbed, their Credit Modernization Program. This was in November of 2023. This came to me via a colleague who's a relationship manager there at Chase Bank and gave me the context of this program. So essentially, this program was Chase Bank realizing that interest rates were up, banks and lenders and alternative lenders in particularly were starting to struggle. And there was an opportunity to grab some market share and tap into some businesses that they normally wouldn't qualify, that couldn't get their funding from their normal sources because those alternative lenders were starting to struggle and some were even going under. So Chase Bank launched a program where they were allowing businesses that were about 6 months to a year old that had been banking with them during that window of time and had actual inflows and outflows, actual revenue shown on their business, FICO scores 660, 680 and up, to actually qualify for up to $250,000 in funding with low to no documentation. So as long as you had an established business, you had an established business banking relationship with them during that window of time, you had a reasonable FICO score, 660, 680 and up, had inflows and outflows, real revenue coming through, you could acquire up to a $250,000. It didn't matter if it was business credit cards, line of credit, business loan. You could acquire funding from Chase Bank up to $250,000 with low to no documentation. If they did the, so basically they would take the application with no documentation, and if they reviewed your credit profile, your banking relationship, your business credit, and everything looks solid enough, you could access up to $250,000 at max exposure without documentation. So this is happening in November of 2023. This rolls out. It's scrapped by September of 2024. Almost the exact window of time that I'm acquiring these business credit cards at 0% at over $100,000 in funding, I could have accessed a more reusable form of capital through a line of credit at the same time. So while I'm stacking up the 0%, because let's keep context in place. Once the 0% is out on these business credit cards, other than basic spending, they're useless as a funding tool because we're using them as working capital. So I had an opportunity to get a line of credit via working capital that I could have used for working capital. Now, maybe I could have got one of those business credit cards at the 0% and saved the rest of that bandwidth for the line of credit. But I took for granted that that program was going to be around longer, and it got scrapped in September of 2024. So I missed that entire window of time to acquire similar, maybe even higher levels of funding at the same underwriting criteria, give or take, that it would have took to get the business credit card to get a line of credit. Tell me I'm not hitting myself over the head right now. So I wanted to put this out there because it's very important to pay close attention to your financial institutions and the business lenders that you're dealing with, especially these mainstream conventional banks. They're rolling out programs and opportunities. Economic cycles change, their lending circumstances change, their objectives change, and they will roll out and roll back in programs like crazy that could be real opportunities for you to acquire the funding that you need. And again, a line of credit with Chase Bank would have been clutch because, again, that would have been a reusable line of funding that would have had a reasonable interest rate versus me having to run away from the 0% mark with the 0% cutoff with the business credit card and basically having to scrap the card other than basic expenses, no longer being able to use it for working capital. But that line of credit would have complemented perfectly because I would have had a reusable line of credit for years, only paying for what I used, and once I paid it back, I could reuse it at a reasonable interest rate. So this is just an opportunity that I missed. It is what it is. Other opportunities are going to come. I've navigated that funding really well, so I'm okay with that. But at the end of the day, this is a missed opportunity for some good quality working capital with low to no documentation. Chase Bank is back up to their 2-year minimum standard, full documentation underwriting since September of 2024. And businesses are getting shut out like crazy. They're shutting out certain industries altogether that they normally would be funding. So things are getting tough again out there. This was a golden opportunity. This was a golden opportunity that was missed. And I just wanted to film this because I know a lot of you as entrepreneurs who are in the funding and credit space and accessing capital for your business need this kind of insight to remind you or wake you up to what could be out there for you right under your nose with the institutions you're already exercising and expanding your relationships with. Comment down below and let me know what your relationship with Chase Bank is like. Have you accessed business funding from them or any other banking relationship value that you've gotten out of Chase Bank? Let me know if you've missed a similar opportunity while acquiring funding for your business over time. Let me know if you've missed this with another financial institution. Let me know what your thoughts are on me missing this window of time as a financial expert, as a business banker himself. Let me know what you think about this. Comment down below. To all my pioneers, welcome back. To my new viewers, welcome in. Get in the description down below if you want to tie in with me on Instagram. Also, an opportunity to work with me one-to-one to help you with some of your financial needs so I can help you customize your blueprint for prosperity. You can get in the description down below to find out where I specialize. Like, comment, share, subscribe, boost the video. Super thanks. Support the channel, support these videos so this channel can continue to support you. Putting out content without a bunch of sales funnels, a bunch of bait and hooks. This is your opportunity to support a content creator and support content that is genuine, that you can take, that is actionable and help you to level up your finances. So support the channel so the channel can continue to support you. Other than that, I want each and every one of you to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon.